This is the biggest macro opportunity of all time. I've basically dedicated a lot of my life to this trade now. And many others in the space, particularly macro players, have basically just given up trading other instruments and just gone towards crypto, because the world, driven by the everything code, is basically all one trade, the debasement of currency by the central banks, and therefore you want to own the best performing asset. When we talk about crypto, I use the charts of Bitcoin here because Bitcoin has the longest price history. It too is stunningly correlated with global liquidity. You see, Bitcoin has an 87.5% correlation, not as high as the NASDAQ, because, as you can see, it's the periods of outperformance that lowers that correlation. When we start to get, full kind of mania, crypto mania cycles that you get in this exponential asset, because it is a much more exponential curve, because it's driven by tech adoption. And we'll come on to that in a second as well. But you can see that liquidity is the driver of Bitcoin plus technology. But when I look at Bitcoin versus global liquidity, it's outperforming the debasement by 105% a year. I mean, that's a staggering difference versus global equities, which are not doing anything at all and are probably negative. That's a huge difference in your future purchasing power, which is why this is such an important asset. And again, I'll come on to more of this in a bit. But we've ascertained that technology stocks are in a secular bull market. They're 97.5% correlated, but they've been rising very well over time. However, when you look at NASDAQ versus Bitcoin, this is a crucial chart. So NASDAQ is the best performing equity market in the world, essentially. But when you look at it versus Bitcoin, since this period of debasement, NASDAQ has underperformed by 99.93%. Just wrap your head around that. And it doesn't stop. It's underperforming by 45% a year. And as you can see, we're going to break to new lows, and this chart will just continue. As Bitcoin and crypto eat the world, it's something I call the supermassive black hole. I look at Bitcoin charts versus every asset, and they're all the same. They're all down 99.9 something percent. And then I look at relative values between Bitcoin and Ethereum, or Bitcoin and Solana, and that's where you get to choose what you think the fastest horse is. And that's why I chose Solana this cycle. But basically, crypto is the supermassive black hole, the asset that appreciates faster than anything else, and on a risk-adjusted basis too. So what's driving this? Well, what's driving this is obviously the debasement of currency, but why the other 105% excess returns versus that? Well, it's this chart. This is starting the internet at 5 million IP users and crypto at 5 million wallets, active wallets. So yes, I know that neither of them are perfect measures, but I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for understanding. And what we saw is the internet, which was the fastest adoption of technology the world had ever seen, it grew at 76% a year and then slowed down after year 8 to 43% a year. Crypto has been growing at 137% a year. It's now at 516 million users versus 187 million of the internet at the same stage. And then what we did is assume that crypto just slows down its growth to the same as the internet. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it'll be faster. But it gets by 2025, the end of 2025, we get to 1.1 billion users. So that'll be double the pace that the internet grew. And because this is a network and the tokens are at your participation in the network, they go up a lot. It's as simple as that. It's Metcalfe's law. So when you've got the biggest technological trend of any asset class in all of history, you're going to make a lot of money if that trend continues. This is why it's the biggest macro trend of all time. But it goes on. If we look out further using the internet adoption growth, and we slow down the trend rate of growth of crypto to the same as the internet going forwards, we get to 4 billion users by 2030. That's half the world's population. Now, will this be perfect? It's been pretty perfect so far. I've been showing this chart for 5 years now, but let's assume not. Either way, these numbers are simply staggering. And that's why you get that log chart of Bitcoin over time, because it's the adoption curve is what you're seeing, which is why the sell-offs, even though they sound terrifying, down 75%, are just blips in the overall trend. And over time, it just keeps compounding growth. You see, to show how starkly this compounds growth, this chart of all of the asset markets since 2011, I think is hilarious. So you've got the usual NASDAQ, blah, blah, blah. So we can look, ignore the top three for a second. NASDAQ, 17%, beating the debasement, that 12% number, and compounded 800% since 2011. That's a fucking good investment. What a great investment the NASDAQ's been. Then we go up. Look at the top, Bitcoin. Bitcoin, every 3 years is the worst performing asset. The next 3 years in a row, it's the best performing asset in the world. And even with the drawdowns, those scary drawdowns that everybody hates, it's compounded 20 million% returns. Since we started talking about Bitcoin on Real Vision in 2014, it's up 450,000%. Its annualized return is 139%. That's mind-blowing, right? We've never, ever in history been given an asset like this. But when you go up the risk curve a bit, to newer crypto, getting up the risk curve, getting up the adoption curve. Well, in 2016, out comes Ethereum. Out of the gate, monster returns. Huge drawdowns. Compounding returns, 364,000%. Annualized at 149%, which is better than Bitcoin. Solana came last cycle. Again, came out of the gate, fell 94%. What are the compounded returns? 7,713%, which is 200% a year. Right, so there is no asset class in all of history that's ever performed like this, even with the drawdowns. This is why I keep saying to people, you just want to buy and hold them. And if you can make the right switch amongst the big ones as the next big network gets adoption, you'll make even more compound returns. Right, this is the biggest gift we've ever been given as investors. And it's the biggest macro trade of all time. Let's go back to the risk reward topic. Here's Jurrien Timmer's chart that I've stolen from him, which is on the left is all of the bubbles of risk rewards of assets and how they look. Pretty typical. And this is how asset allocators think about it. But when you add in Bitcoin, you end up with a massive blank page with at the very top right, this fucking alien risk reward, which is Bitcoin. Crypto is a complete alien in terms of performance and risk reward. This chart includes the drawdown of 2022. So you see, again, I keep saying it's a gift, and people still don't really understand what a gift it is. It's something unlike anything we've ever had in history, and it gives us a hell of a chance to make money. So to sum up what the biggest macro trade of all time is, it's crypto going from 2.7 trillion where we are today to, let's say, 12 trillion by the end of this cycle, and on to 100 trillion within 10 years. And you've got to understand, this would be the fastest accumulation of an asset class in all recorded history in the shortest period of time. It'll have driven the highest returns of any asset class in all of recorded history in the shortest period of time. In fact, in any period of time. And it will be the fastest accumulation of wealth the world has ever seen in the shorter period of time. If we go and generate 90 odd trillion in wealth in the next 10 years. To put that number in perspective, because we're all getting bored of such big trillion numbers, that is, the S&P 500 is $50 trillion. That is the accumulated worth of all the companies that have succeeded and failed and grown over time, driven by the US economy, over the last 100 years, is 50 trillion. It's double that. And you're going to do it in 10 years.
Thank you for joining us today on this insightful journey into the world of crypto and investing. If you found value in today's discussion and want to stay updated on future crypto news and market insights, don't forget to hit subscribe button below and click the notification bell. By subscribing, you'll be part of our growing community, gaining exclusive access to timely analyses and strategies. I look forward to having you with us in the next video.